Joining us in the studio today at 96.3 and Win TV are Kurt Anderson and Dave Sarna. They're here to talk about the upcoming Manawa Snowdeo and Kurt's incredible daring attempt to break the world ground speed record on a snowmobile. Dave, do you want to begin?
Sure. Well, thanks a lot, Justin, for having us in today. I am the track manager of the Manawa Snowdeo that's coming up on February 15th and 16th in Manawa, specifically at Bear Lake Resort on Bear Lake, about 5 miles south of Manawa on Highway 22. And this is our 13th year of racing out there, and we kind of pride ourselves in having about the only event in the nation, I believe, that runs 4 racetracks simultaneously. So basically this year, it's a 2-day. It's Saturday and Sunday. We won't be racing evenings at times we've done that. But Saturday is basically everything on skis, which means we have Pro Vintage Racing coming in. It's going to be on a 3rd-mile oval track. We do a lake cross race, which is a slalom track that's roughly 2 miles long that turns lefts and rights, and we have about 75 racers coming in for that. And it's actually also an event where the average snowmobiler can go out in there and just see how well he can do. It's not a lot of high speeds, but it's a lot of maneuvering. And you run commonly with about 80 other guys out there, and it's a lot of fun. We also will have the Wisconsin Kitty Cat racers there, so we make a dedicated short oval, small oval for those guys, and they're going to be out there, the kids. And then we also have radar runs. So if you're just curious on seeing how fast your snowmobile will go, or your bike, or your quad, or just about everything we've had out there, I think a wheelbarrow even ran one time to see what speeds you can achieve. We'll be out there. The race course there is 660 feet long. So Saturday is all skis, and on Sunday we turn the program over to basically wheeled vehicles. So the oval track, now we welcome in Central Wisconsin Ice Racers Associations, and those are guys that race motorcycles and quads on the ice and on the oval track. And again, we've got entry classes in that categories as well. So if you've never done this stuff before, you come out. These organizations have 1-day memberships. You pay $10 to $15. They'll get you in a class that fits your need and your skill level, and they'll get you out there on the track. And it's a lot of fun, and it's very safely run as well. The Kitty Cat track now gets converted over to lawnmower racing. We started introducing modified lawnmower racers last year, and we did indeed have racers from Florida to Canada that came to Manawa last year to race on this Kitty Cat track. And so they'll be out there. And then this year we're also introducing mini bike racing. John Spence from the Simcoe Weekender has got a group of people. I think he told me last year they had 400 mini bikes that were involved with the Weekender in Simcoe. And so he's started a group of ice racers on mini bikes. So those guys will be out there. We will be having the radar run, track run again on Sunday, and that'll be open for bikes, sleds, quads, whatever you got. And this year, we're inviting the Merrill Ice Drag racers to come in and do some exhibition runs out there. So you'll see some of these drag race ice cars that'll be out there. And the bonus feature we're real excited about, and the special for Sunday, is we've invited in the Arctic Arrow that we were introduced to last year, basically through the Discovery Channel, that called us the week before the Snowdeo and said, can you guys make a 1-mile long, 100-foot wide ice track to host a world record attempt? And we were kind of like a little uneasy on all this. And we said it's possible, but, we need a serious commitment. And so they were real hot on coming in and doing a show out on Bear Lake and for this record attempt. And then in the process, we were introduced to the team and the owner and driver who we have with us today, Mr. Kurt Anderson. And he's out of Minnesota, and he has built a rocket-powered dragster with skis on it, basically. And it was built with the sole purpose of breaking the record that's held now by a man by the name of Sammy Miller out of New York, that in 1981 went 247 miles an hour on ice. And Kurt is his plan is to one-up this guy. So he's going to start from a standing start and he's going to be timed up to 1,000 feet. And he feels comfortable that at the end of that 1,000 feet, he's going to be doing well over 247 miles an hour. And the rest of the track, the remainder of the mile, is going to be bringing this thing back under control. So, Kurt, we'd like to welcome you here today. And he's visiting and setting up some of his prerequisites and logistics for the trip that's coming up here in January to bring this rocket sled to Manawa. So I guess I'd like to say welcome to Wapaka and welcome to our area, and tell us a little bit more about what your attempt's going to consist of and what you have in mind for that special day in February.
Well, thanks, Dave and Justin. Well, I'm going to come to Manawa and break the world record on ice. That's my goal, and it's something that I'm going to work hard to accomplish. So we're going to be coming early February to kind of set up. We've got different waves of our team. The first wave that comes in is going to be setting up the pit area, the on-ramp and off-ramp to the lake, and really getting our pit area ready, and start moving tools and getting the facilities ready to be able to get this car prepped and down the runway. And we're going to also be working on the runway itself to make sure that it's straight. The ice is the way we need it, and so we'll be actively involved in the runway preparation as well.
So I've got to know Kurt pretty well over the last few months, and he's made trips here. And one thing that I was very impressed by is already midsummer, the hottest days of the summer, he was in contact with us in the Snowdeo and said, listen, I want to make trips there ahead of time, and I want to meet with anybody that has concerns or questions or issues with this attempt. So I know in our time together, we've visited everybody from Sheriff Wills to the DNR to the fire department to the mayor of Manawa to lake owners to you name it, to make sure that everybody is on board with what we're doing. And yesterday was a trip down to Madison to actually get folks down there involved to help get the word spread, not only just statewide, but region-wide, to get as many people here to witness this event that we're going to put together.
Yeah. Well, the lake is like a public resource. And so when we're going to come into an area, we just need to make sure everybody knows, what we're trying to do and what we need. So for a small portion of this winter, we're going to have to, have a quiet runway for us to make our attempt on. So in my look at anything that we're doing for, record type runs is you can't have too much preparation. I mean, we spend months to do a 4-second race. So that's what I'm here. And I've just been really happy with everyone I've met and, how the whole area has welcomed this attempt. And I really am happy to partner with Dave on this effort, because he's, it's been fabulous just to, make sure there's no gray areas that, when it comes to this stuff, that's what we need. Safety is number one.
So maybe you can clarify for our viewers and listeners that this is actually a rocket engine in what started out as a top fuel dragster chassis, if I understand correctly, and you retrofitted skis underneath this thing, but it's not jet powered, it's not piston powered, it's powered by a hydrogen peroxide rocket. Is that right?
Yeah, it's thrust driven. So there is nothing that, it's not track driven. So it's a thrust driven vehicle that is powered by 90% hydrogen peroxide. And what's really kind of fascinating for me about it is this fuel decomposes into steam. So it's really a steam generator. So the thrust that's coming out of the back is water and some extra oxygen. So it's pretty cool tech.
So I guess to put it in perspective, when, I'm a gearhead guy and a muscle car type fella, and so I know Chevy engines and pistons and things like that. So I'm trying to wrap my arms around this rocket propulsion. And when I asked Kurt, put it into retrospect as far as the amount of power that this rocket produces, your remark to me was, well, if we took this car and basically stood it on end with the nose straight up in the air and pulled the trigger, this thing would shoot so far out of sight, you wouldn't even see it in space. So, I mean, there's no doubt a tremendous amount of thrust and G-force and pressure that you no doubt have to experience when this thing is on that 4 seconds under the throttle.
Yeah, the power is instantaneous. So the motor has 5,000 pounds of thrust, and that is there's a short period that we have to heat the motor up. But once we're past that and we're into arming the rocket and launching it, it's instant power, and we'll consume 18 gallons of fuel in under 4 seconds. So, all of the power, and that's given. So I control the power of this thing, so I can turn it up and turn it down. But under the ideal conditions, we can create all that energy in a really short amount of time, and that's what gets this thing moving.
So I know this is not your first run with this thing, and maybe you could share with our listeners here. You actually transported your team, your crew, all your cargo, a ship container to Sweden and raced this in Europe before ever even thinking about coming to Manawa or coming to the Snowdeo. So can you tell us a little bit about that experience? That must have been really something special to go there and shake the car down.
Well, so I started building the Arctic Arrow in 2014, and I had learned about an event in Sweden called Speed Weekend, and they have a flying kilometer course. And so while I was building this thing, I was kind of in touch with some of the people that were kind of active on social media within Speed Weekend, and they were really encouraging me to bring this thing to Europe. And as it turns out, my grandparents are from Sweden, and so as the time kind of got closer, and we kept on working through the logistics of how this would work. I mean, I had to learn about containers and shipping and carnets and all the legalities of bringing stuff in and out of a country. When you ship something to a country that's not going to stay there, there's rules about when it's got to get out of there. So it is a full process. So so in 2017 we decided to run in the 2017 event, which required us to get ready in November to have this thing going in November of 2016. So it takes about 3 months to get from Minnesota to Sweden, a big 40-foot container, which is what we did. And the sad thing, or let's not say sad, but one of the downsides of going to Europe or something, I had just built this thing, and even though I had tested the propulsion system and I had set up what I believed was correct for the tracking of the vehicle, I didn't test it once. The first time I ever drove this thing, I'm in Sweden, and so that was something to learn about. So I'm kind of one of one, trying to learn how to tune and manage the power of a rocket on ice. And so I've learned an incredible amount of what it takes and down forces and where I need to have my points on the ice. So anyways, things didn't work out exactly the way that I wanted. I broke a steering wheel. I've gone off course. So, but through all that, I've learned it, and I've had a great time. At some point, who knows, I may be back to Europe. But I've taken all I've learned, and I'm really excited about putting up a good number here in Manawa.
My question is the distance of the lake. How big is the lake? How long is this run going to take? How much time do you need to stop from at that speed? And if you can kind of give us a little bit of what goes into all that process, because I'm sure it's very technical to make sure you stay safe during this run.
So the vehicle is designed to get up to top speed within 1,000 feet. So this is a standing start, hard launch, almost like a quarter-mile drag run, and we immediately stop or start shutting down at about 1,000 feet, 1,200 feet. And so I have parachutes, a primary and secondary, and the speed scrubs off really fast. When you pull out a chute, I can almost decelerate as quick as I accelerate. If I'm getting into trouble and I need to get straightened up, I pull my chutes. And again, I have two, a primary and secondary. And then I've also developed what I call my pneumatic claw, which is they're big steel blades that come down and lift up the rear of the car. So the car comes off the ice and it's literally riding on these, teeth. And so that I can go from 100 to almost nothing inside of 6-7 feet. It's a dramatic stop. So we've got about a 5,000-foot runway, and we're gonna, theoretically, we're only gonna use half of that, and the other half is there just for safety. If something goes wrong, I should be able to coast to a stop inside of 3,000 feet. So, and we've got extra on top of that. So I don't need a lot of length. What I really need is a good hard surface that's as flat as possible.
What are like the ideal conditions for this? I mean, weather-wise, temperatures that play a big role in it, and
yeah. So interestingly enough, the rocket propulsion system hates cold. So ideally, you're not running in the winter with this type of propulsion system. So we have to bring in outside heat. So, but ideal conditions is we need the winds to be under 12 miles an hour as far as a crosswind would be concerned, and I need perfect visibility. Light flurry, because we are going to have runway markers so I'll be able to see my my borders. Let's say, the track width that I'll be running in will be about 40 feet. The runway itself will be close to 100 feet wide. So the vehicle itself is only 6 feet wide and it's 27 feet long. So provided everything is working right, it literally runs on a rail. This is designed to go straight, and that's really where all my work in science is into the vehicle, is just to make it go straight. And I don't have to drive it. I mean, I have to arm it. I have to, activate the motor and do all those things. But the driving should be very, very minimal. It's not made to turn. It's just made to go straight. So
let me ask you this question. I know you're from Minnesota, and I know on your license plates, I don't know if it's still, but it used to say 10,000 lakes. And so I guess my question is, you have 10,000 lakes and the Minnesota Vikings, but yet you want to come to Wisconsin and particularly Manawa to make your run. Are you like a displaced Packer fan, or have you been excommunicated and that's why you chose Manawa, Wisconsin to do this attempt?
No, but I will say that I am a Vikings fan, but as soon as the Vikings are out of the hunt, I am a true Green Bay fan, because I do love the area. I vacationed here a lot in my youth, and my kids, we've gone to the Wisconsin Dells, when they were young every year. So, I'm a Vikings fan first, but it's not bad second.
So you take your horned helmet off after the Vikings are out and put the cheese head on, I guess.
How come? So why Manawa though?
So really it comes down to Dave and kind of the way things worked out. Discovery really was pushed. So I'm involved in it's called Homemade Astronauts, another show with Discovery, and they know about my rocket racing. And in the beginning, I was very reluctant to mix, efforts into space with rocket racing, even though there's many parallels. And so producers of these reality shows are looking for every scenario they can come up with. And so they knew I had the Arctic Arrow, and they were like, oh my God, we got to do a show on this. And I go, well, we got to find a place, so I'm giving them a list of requirements to run this vehicle. It isn't just you can go anywhere. I mean, having a course is a big deal. So the producers of that time, they were searching for, somebody to create a course for the run, and they were pushing me to go. And I'm like, yeah. And so through those efforts, I found Dave and the Snowdeo. And so, part of my discovery and finding something that's real that we can bring in our team and make a run at, it requires site surveys. It requires who am I going to be working with? And Dave was somebody that I could tell right away he was excited about it. He got it. Not when you talk about land speed records, I think there's a lot of people that just don't get it. It hasn't been in the mindset of people for a long, long time. Now in the 70s, it was almost everyday news. But so So here we are today. I'm introduced to Dave. I liked his style. I liked that he was ready to go on it. And I liked that it was a small community. I have had other opportunities in very more populated areas, and it adds a ton of logistics. Bear Lake is a large portion of it is undeveloped, and that's good for my kind of thing because that's X number of less dogs I got to worry about. It's less people that are fighting to use that public resource. So I understand that this is that we're here and we're sharing this with the community, and so those were the things, and all the things that are showstoppers haven't happened, and in fact it's been the opposite. Everyone that I've met has been in open arms. How can we help? And that's what we needed, and this is a big deal. I mean, I'm going after a world record, and I can't think of a better spot. And when I first looked at this site, and I think more so now. And yeah, I mean, I actually live on one of the best lakes in Minnesota, but all those things have challenges. So, it's finding the right mix, and I think I found it, and everything is a go. So
let me ask you this question: rocket racing is sure not been limited purely to ice racing. It's been around for many years. You've affiliated yourself with some very famous people who have set records with rocket propulsion. And so just, in a nutshell, can you give us a little bit of that history and world records that have been set by rocket powered vehicles?
Yeah, there's been several. And what's interesting is they all they actually started in Wisconsin, which is interesting. So my crew chief is Kai Michelson, and he is truly one of the pioneers in rocket-powered propulsion. He's actually brought it. He was one of the key people to actually bring it into NHRA racing. But rocket racing itself started with a vehicle called the X1. It was built here in Wisconsin by a guy named Pete Farnsworth and Dick Keller. And it was a prototype vehicle for the Blue Flame, which was a world record-setting land speed car that was developed here in Wisconsin. So as time goes on, and the X1 was actually sold to a snowmobile company. So Kai Michelson had known about the X1, and he was actually working at Snow Pony in Minneapolis, and he convinced the owner of a Snow Pony that, hey, we should buy this old rocket and put it on skis. And they did, and they called it the Sonic Challenger. And Kai Michelson got a world record on snow. I think it was the 72 era. And then that vehicle was used as a promotional vehicle for a number of times. As there was all these manufacturers of snowmobiles that got really dense. The market did. Studebaker bought Snow Pony, and shortly thereafter, the thing all fell apart. And Kai Michelson bought the Sonic Challenger from Studebaker after Studebaker went bankrupt, and then he actually developed the first, or the more modern, he took a top gas car of that era, and then actually campaigned it to bring it into the NHRA through a company called Pollution Packer. So Kai Michelson, who's he's actually the person that introduced me to rockets, was kind of the godfather of the whole thing, and he's on my team today, and he's safety conscious, and as a car owner and even a driver, Kai has over 72 national and international speed records. Most of those are from other drivers, but it's his car, and he's tuned him, and so the bottom line is he knows these things inside and out, and I feel really fortunate to have him on my team. In fact, I wouldn't be here unless I met the guy, because I knew nothing about this technology until I met him.
So let me ask you this question. No doubt the day of the event, like you said, I really am picking up on the emphasis you place on safety. So the general attendance and the audience out there, they're not going to be able to get up to the car, the starting line, anything of that fashion. If I want to take my son to go see this car, when and where is that going to be possible? Because I would think I probably won't get close to it on that day.
No, absolutely not. So There are a couple of planned events. I know that there's a planned event in Manawa at the at the fire station, maybe a week before. I don't know the dates, but we're also going to be displaying it at the Vintage Derby at Eagle River on the Vintage race, and then we're keeping it there for another week for the championship. So we'll have a full display. I'll be there. Hopefully, some of my other crew will be there, but we'll have a display, and we'll have our hero cards and stuff that we can hand out to people. And anyone that's got any curiosity about this, we welcome to come out and take a look at it prior to the events. And we'll be at multiple things. And I think, Dave, you'll be able to share that, as we get closer to the timing.
Well, Justin, we really want to thank you and Win TV and 96.3 Radio for inviting us in today. And there's going to be more updates on this as we get closer and more details about the Snowdeo. But I guess, folks, keep your calendars circled for February 15th and 16th. It's easy to remember. It's always the third weekend in February for not only experiencing history being broken by this world record run, but also full days of racing on both days. And we've been very fortunate the last couple of years with awesome weather, and got the feeling it's going to be a real special day, and weather's going to be in our favor again. So please come on out. It's very inexpensive attendance, and it's a family show, and we shuttle people back and forth to the parking lot, even right from where they park their car to the racetrack. And Bear Lake does a great job with selling of refreshments and hot chocolate and you name it. So again, thanks again so much for hosting us today, and please, we'll be looking forward to seeing you in February in Manawa.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming in. And Kurt, I wish you the best of luck, and I believe you definitely can pull this off. And thank you for bringing it to Waupaca County, because this is a huge event, and I think most people will definitely enjoy this, and everybody should come out and check it out. And any more update? Do you know the specific day that you will be doing this?
It's targeted for the Sunday, the 16th.
Okay.
So it's a 2-day event, but in order to really isolate them and keep their starting line safe, part of where the Lake Cross runs, which will be used on the day before, that is not utilized on that Sunday. So that gives them more privacy and seclusion away from the crowd. So their target date will be for February 16th, Sunday. And we're actually, I don't know how fine we can tune this, but we're sort of planning on a national anthem and opening ceremony and parade at 12 o'clock. We'll be racing well before that, but we've selected noon to be the day that we stand for the anthem and salute the flag. And we're going to try to set it up so right after the anthem is playing, we light the car and send it down the track, and everybody is on their feet for two special occasions.
All right. Well, great. Thank you guys so much for coming in here. We really appreciate you sharing this really special event with this community. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks again.